Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we've got some crucial news you don't want to miss. Let's dive right into the top financial headlines and break down what's happening. Tomorrow is Election Day in the US, and this year's race is especially heated. Amid all the noise and political tension, voters are focused on 5 key economic issues that directly affect their lives. Let's break down these top priorities, which can help us understand what's really at stake in this election. 1. Taxes. Taxes are a huge talking point this election. Trump has made tax cuts a centerpiece of his campaign, promising to extend the tax cuts passed during his first term, which are set to expire by the end of this year. He's also looking to reduce corporate taxes even further and has floated additional tax cuts, like eliminating taxes on tips, overtime pay, and Social Security benefits. To offset the loss in revenue, he suggests raising tariffs on imported goods. Harris, on the other hand, is focused on extending the 2017 tax cuts for those making under $400,000, but he plans to let the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans expire. He also wants to increase the corporate tax rate and impose a minimum tax on billionaires. He promises to expand the child tax credit for families and offer tax relief to small businesses. The 2017 tax cuts are set to expire soon, so tax reform will likely be a major focus for whoever wins the election. Both parties are trying to avoid being blamed for raising taxes on the middle class, and with Congress playing a key role in tax policy, the composition of Congress will be crucial. If one party controls the presidency, Senate, and House, they'll have a much easier time pushing through their plans. But if power is split, tax reform will require some tough negotiations. 2. Trade. Trade is another big issue this election, with Trump pushing for higher tariffs to force manufacturers to bring production back to the US. The GOP is advocating for a 10 to 20% tariff on all imports and a 60% or higher tariff on goods from China. Some economists warn that this could hurt the US economy, with predictions that it could reduce GDP by 0.8% and raise inflation by 4.3% by 2028. If other countries retaliate, the damage could be even worse, with a 1.3% drop in GDP. Harris has a more continuity-based approach, sticking with many of Biden's trade policies. He warns that Trump's plan would effectively create a national sales tax, raising costs for consumers. But both candidates agree that they will block foreign takeovers of US steel companies, signaling tough stances on foreign investments in sensitive industries. 3. Immigration. Immigration is a major issue, with Trump promising the largest ever deportation effort for unauthorized immigrants. This could hit industries like construction, hospitality, and retail, which rely heavily on immigrant labor. Economists warn this could disrupt the labor market and cost billions. Harris, on the other hand, supports a more moderate approach. He's committed to reintroducing legislation to tackle illegal border crossings. If Congress is divided after the election, this will need bipartisan support to pass. Given the wide differences in their policies, immigration is one of the key issues American voters are paying attention to. For energy policy. Energy policy is another major point of contrast. Trump wants to reduce regulations on oil, gas, and coal production and make more federal lands available for fossil fuel extraction. He believes this will lower costs and help the economy. He also wants to end subsidies for green energy, which the Biden administration has pushed for. Harris, meanwhile, is focused on transitioning to clean energy, promising to lower household energy costs while addressing the climate crisis through green energy and public land conservation. 5. Budget deficit and national debt. The national debt and budget deficit are also hot topics. Both candidates' plans are expected to increase the deficit. Under Trump's leadership, the deficit could nearly double, leading to higher borrowing costs for families and businesses. According to projections, Harris's plan could increase the deficit by $3.95 trillion over 10 years, while Trump's could push it up by $7.75 trillion. In either case, higher deficits typically mean higher interest rates, which makes borrowing more expensive for everyone. Investors are optimistic about US fiscal policy for now, but with the national debt on the rise, this will remain a concern. Conclusion. In the end, these 5 economic issues, taxes, trade, immigration, energy, and government debt, are the top concerns for most American voters. While some passionate supporters on both sides may focus more on ideological debates or abstract political emotions, the majority of Americans are making their decisions based on what directly affects their wallets. The candidates' differing positions on these issues are shaping the choices voters will make, and understanding these economic stakes is key to understanding this election. Next, we'll focus on a front-page headline from the Wall Street Journal. Tomorrow's the big day, Election Day in the US. As we approach the final hours of the 2024 race, the Wall Street Journal took a look back at 9 key moments from the campaign that could determine who comes out on top. These are the events that helped shape the narrative and might just have the biggest impact on the election's outcome. Let's dive into those 9 moments. 1. Trump announces his candidacy. The first major turning point in the race was when Trump announced he was running for the Republican nomination. His announcement kicked off the campaign, and he quickly became the front-runner in the GOP race. 2. Biden joins the race. After Trump's early entry, it took Biden 5 months to announce his candidacy. Then, in May, things got even more interesting when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. entered the race as an independent. With Biden, Trump, and Kennedy in the mix, we had a 3-way race shaping up. 3. Trump skips the Republican debates. A big move came when Trump refused to participate in the Republican debates. While his competitors fumbled through their debates, Trump stayed out of the fray. His absence was a key moment, as it highlighted his unique approach and dominance over the GOP field. 4. Trump faces criminal charges. This one was huge. In May, Trump was charged with felony counts for falsifying records to cover up hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels. These criminal cases became a defining feature of the election, sparking heated debates. For many Democrats, the charges were a sign that Trump shouldn't be in office again. But for his supporters, every new legal setback only seemed to fuel their loyalty. His legal issues didn't seem to harm his popularity with the base. In fact, each legal battle often led to a fresh wave of fundraising. 5. Biden struggles in the Georgia debate. A defining moment came in June when Biden participated in a televised debate in Georgia and struggled. His performance was disastrous, and for a while, many Democratic insiders began to call for him to drop out of the race. 6. Trump's shooting incident in Pennsylvania. In July, Trump was shot at during a rally in Pennsylvania. A 20-year-old man shot at Trump and grazed his right ear. While it was a terrifying event, it only seemed to boost Trump's popularity, with supporters rallying behind him. A few days later, at the Republican National Convention, Trump named Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate, bringing a fresh face and youthful energy to his ticket. 7. Biden drops out. Harris takes over. Then came another shocking twist. Biden dropped out of the race in August and threw his support behind Kamala Harris. This left the Democratic Party in a scramble, but soon, Harris emerged as the clear frontrunner. Biden's exit and Harris's rise changed the game for the Democratic Party, creating a new sense of unity and momentum. 8. Harris surges in the polls. By August, Harris started leading in the polls. This was a game-changer, as Trump had been leading Biden in the polls for months. Harris's entry into the race altered the dynamics, with her poll numbers going up fast. This shift was especially noticeable after a September debate, where Harris far outperformed expectations, shaking up the race and giving her a much stronger standing than before. 9. Musk gives Trump a boost in Pennsylvania. The final critical moment happened in October when Elon Musk spoke at a rally in Pennsylvania supporting Trump. His endorsement gave Trump a huge boost, reversing some of the momentum that had shifted to Harris. Musk's support made a big splash, and it seemed to reignite Trump's base, giving him a much-needed lift. What does this all mean for the election? Looking at these 9 key moments, it's clear that this election has been full of unexpected twists and drama. But some moments stand out more than others in terms of their potential to actually decide the election's outcome. Here are the 2 moments I think could have the biggest impact on the result. 1. Biden's exit and Harris's rise. If Harris wins, the most important factor might not even be her policies or abilities. It could just be the fact that Biden dropped out, allowing her to step in. Before Biden left the race, the Democratic Party was in a kind of zombie state. There was hesitation, voters weren't sure about Biden's ability to govern, and the party was trying to keep the ship afloat. Once Biden dropped out and Harris took over, it felt like a shift from a wake to a wedding, a total transformation. 2. Musk's rally in Pennsylvania. If Trump wins, I believe the pivotal moment could be Elon Musk's speech at that Pennsylvania rally. After Harris had surged in August and September, Trump's campaign was struggling to regain momentum. Musk's speech seemed to give him the push he needed, reviving his supporters and giving his campaign new life. It was one of those rare moments that felt like a turning point. So, which of these key moments will be the most decisive? We'll likely know tomorrow, but these events have already shaped how the race is unfolding. Next today, The Economist has an interesting take on how to follow tomorrow's big day, the 2024 US presidential election. Whether you're in the US or elsewhere, this piece offers some great tips on how to read the election results like an insider. It's pretty insightful. First off, this year is going to be a bit different. With so many early votes cast, it's expected that counting will take longer than usual. So, even though some people think the results will be slow to come in, election officials are confident they can count faster. What's interesting is that over 75 million Americans have already voted by mail or early in person, about half of all voters. This is a record number of early votes. So tomorrow, we're only looking at half the electorate voting on Election Day, which is the lowest turnout on an actual voting day in recent memory. But here's the catch, it's not the number of people voting on the day that causes delays, it's the mail-in ballots. They take way longer to count because they need more checks, like making sure the ballots are valid and verifying signatures. Plus, those ballots don't always arrive the day after they're sent out, so they can arrive late and further delay the process. This leads to the first insider tip: watch how long it takes to count the votes this year. Will it be faster, or will it still drag on like last time? It's hard to say, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, about the voting states, the first states to finish voting will be in the East Coast, including key swing states like Georgia. They'll finish by 7 p.m. Eastern Time, with other states finishing around 8 p.m. The first results to come in won't necessarily be final counts for the state, but they'll be a snapshot of the counties that finished counting. Here's the catch: in some states, the early results might look like the Republican candidates are leading because Republican voters tend to vote in person, while Democrats are more likely to vote by mail. So, don't be shocked if you see early leads from the Republicans that later flip when the mail-in ballots get counted. This has happened before, but it's something a lot of people still misunderstand and think is fraud. It's just the way the system works, especially when mail-in ballots are involved. Next, The Economist shares a fun little trick based on past elections. Looking at the early results from states like Florida can give you a pretty good sense of who's winning. For example, if Harris is only losing Florida by 7% or less, she has a strong chance of winning the presidency. But if she's down by more than 10% in Florida, her chances of winning drop dramatically. The article then dives into the 7 key swing states you really need to watch. These are the battlegrounds where the race will likely be decided. Some finish voting at 7 p.m. Eastern, while others, like Arizona and Wisconsin, finish up at 9 p.m. or even 10 p.m. Pay attention to these states, especially the big ones like Pennsylvania, which has 19 electoral votes. If Harris wins Pennsylvania, she has a 93% chance of becoming the next president. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, it's a 95% chance for him. So, it's clear that Pennsylvania will be the state everyone's watching tomorrow night. Lastly, The Economist notes that while it's going to take a while for the official election results to come in, the media will have a pretty solid idea of who's ahead thanks to exit polls and early voting data. By tomorrow night, you'll likely hear a pretty good guess about how things are going. Keep an eye on Pennsylvania, because it could be the key to unlocking who wins the whole race. Finally, today's Wall Street Journal has a fascinating article about how both US allies and rivals are bracing for potential shifts in US foreign policy, no matter who wins the 2024 presidential election. The headline says it all: allies and adversaries brace for US policy shifts whether Harris or Trump wins. The article talks about how, in previous US elections, 2016 and 2020, diplomats were already speculating about anti-Trump alliances and the promises made by other countries, especially with Trump possibly returning to office. But now, things are a bit more uncertain. With Harris and Biden's foreign policy differences still not fully clear, foreign governments are preparing for a scenario where US policy could become even more unpredictable, regardless of who wins. One thing's for sure: if Trump wins, the risk of drastic policy changes is much higher. Some worry that a second Trump term could undo years of US leadership in NATO and reduce support for Ukraine. On the other hand, a Harris presidency is seen as stabilizing, at least temporarily. While Harris is expected to slow down any major shifts in US foreign policy, she wouldn't reverse the general trend toward a more democratic, values-driven approach. A senior European diplomat summed it up by saying that no matter who wins, the US will no longer be seen as a reliable partner like it once was. American foreign policy is now more transactional, and Europe, especially in Brussels, has been holding meetings to prepare for potential economic battles with Washington. European officials are concerned about how unpredictable the US has become, especially if Trump is re-elected, and they're worried about the possibility of another trade war with more tariffs. The article also highlights how the Middle East, particularly resource-rich countries like Saudi Arabia, are also preparing for any policy swings that might come from Washington. They've been seeking to build stronger defense relationships with the US to ensure some degree of policy continuity, no matter who is in charge. And of course, when it comes to China, both Trump and Harris have pledged to take a tough stance, but the way they plan to approach China is where their views diverge. Trump's tough rhetoric from his first term could very well continue if he's re-elected, while Harris may take a slightly softer approach, though still strong. But no matter who's in charge, it's clear that US-China relations will remain contentious. At its core, the article reflects a sense of unease and tension among foreign leaders. They're all bracing for some kind of change, but they're also preparing for the worst-case scenario, especially if Trump returns to the White House. It's definitely a moment of uncertainty for US allies and rivals alike. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.